Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show, y'all. Look here. Skip is feeling nothing. Nothing whatsoever. And his grandmother, she loves him. She's the one that has been there for him, but she's growing old and she's growing tired of this. She's growing tired of it. The people in the neighborhood, that understanding and sympathy that they have for him, is starting to fade away because now they're looking at it as if he's taking advantage of a situation. Come on, man. You mean to tell me that he's taking advantage of his mother and father being taken away from him? All they got to say is like, why don't he get over it? Why is he continuing to lash out? Don't he see that we're here for him? Don't he see that we love him? The community rallied around him. You know, they come by and they ask how he's doing and they try to get him engaged into doing things, but he doesn't want to do those things. He wants his parents back. Or he wants somebody to at least explain to him what happened and why it happened. Where is God in this? He's questioning everything and nobody can give him any answers. They think that going to therapy is going to give him the answers that he needs. It would, it could, but it wasn't. He needed somebody to help his young mind make it make sense. But he didn't have that. And that's not uncommon in a lot of neighborhoods. That's not uncommon in a lot of families. Sometimes we just don't have the answers. And we grow tired of individuals that are suffering and they just seem to never get over it. So that empathy that we have, that understanding that we have or had when the incident occurred or incidents occurred, that's gone. Now we want them to pick it up and move on and live life. So now he's a teenager. A couple of years done went by and he's feeling some type of way. So he starts to hang in the streets a little bit more. Now his grandmother, you know, before she kicks him out, he's barely at the house now. And she's so tired of it, she's like, do you, but I love you. I want you to always know that I love you. But if you're not going to do what I want you to do, you can't stay under my roof. She said, if you're hungry, you can come and eat. I'll never deny you that. But you're going to have to follow my rules. And part of following her rules was get over it. How do you do that? So now he's hanging in the streets. He's sleeping wherever he can sleep. He's a kid. And he's bitter now because he's thinking nobody loves him. Nobody's there, not even his grandmother, because they don't understand what he's going through. Nobody has bothered to understand to the depths that he needed them to, that he just needed more time. He just needed more time. And now he's an angry young man. Angry young man. First situation pops up. There's an armed robbery that takes place in the neighborhood. And guess whose face they flashes up on TV? It Skip's. His grandmother sees it. She calls the detective herself because she don't want them to end up having to run down on him and shoot him and kill him. So she tells him that's her grandson, and she tells him what he's been through and how he lost both of his parents within a year. And they said they understand, but they needed him to come in before it turned tragic. You got to keep in mind, they're the police. They're not here to be a social worker. They're here to take in somebody that's violating the laws. They understand what he's going through to the extent that they can understand it, but that don't mean that they have to include that in, you know what I'm saying, the processes that they got to go through when it comes to doing their job. They got to bring him in. So they asked her to help and to call him. Some kind of way reach out to him, get word to him. But she didn't know how to because he had been out on his own. She didn't have a number. She didn't have any way to reach him. The only time she knew where he was at when he would drop in on her to get something to eat or to say something to her, but he wasn't coming no more. He wasn't coming by the house like that. He was strictly on his own. And when they mentioned his name on TV, it spooked him because he didn't know how they would find out his name like that. You know? So he knows that they're looking for him now. So now he's living from pillar to post. And y'all know what I'm talking about when I say from pillar to post. Wherever he can lay his head, whatever. A friend in the streets that would indulge him in staying the night or eating a meal or something like that, he would take them up on it, right? But he could never really get a good night's sleep because he had to sleep with one eye open, one eye closed, because he don't know if they're going to call him in for the reward. He's a wanted man now. So he's here for an hour, somewhere else for an hour. He's moving around constantly. He's a teenager, y'all. Young and stressed out. So now he thinks the perfect place to hide. It's a homeless camp where a lot of homeless people are, right? So he ends up at this homeless camp. And don't get me wrong, you know, people end up in these homeless camps because they're struggling. They got addiction problems, you know, lost a job, whatever the case may be. But see, you got a lot of people that's in these areas that like to take advantage of people that are going through some tough time. They prey on them. So there was this guy that came through the homeless encampment, and he saw Skip, and he tried to assault Skip. And Skip, being seasoned as much as he could be at this particular time, and it's like he's still a teenager, he fought back. He fought back. And you got to keep in mind, he's young. And the guy that was trying to assault him, he was an older guy, not in good shape. But Skip is young, might not know how to fight that well, but look here, young versus old, man. Over time, youth is always going to win out. So when Skip hit him and he fell, Skip jumped up on top of him. He hit him left, right. And the man is trying to defend himself now, and he's screaming for somebody to help him. But see, Skip is letting all of the rage, all of the hurt, all of the pain that he's been experiencing, what he's been bottling up and holding inside, he's letting it out on this guy that tried to assault him. Before he even realized what was going on, this guy is not moving no more. The only time he's moving is when Skip hit him in the head and his head rolls back and forth from side to side. So he heard this voice coming from inside one of the tents that was at the homeless encampment saying, "That's enough. He's not moving." And when he stopped, he looked at him, and the older lady that was inside of the tent, she said, "Come in here. They're going to be looking for you." Because she had seen some of the people that were there running looking for the police. So he got inside the tent with her, and sure enough, the police come to the scene and they're looking for him. And they shine the light on every little area, and they look inside of her tent, and they couldn't find him because she had made him hide up under some old clothing and tarp. So they didn't see him in there. And then when they left, she fixed him a meal and let him eat. And they continued to talk. After 2 or 3 days, he started to bond to her. And he looked at her as a replacement for his mother. After 2 or 3 days, he said, he felt like she had shown him more love and compassion than anybody. It's not true. His grandmother was there for him, but she grew tired. She didn't know what to do. And now here comes this homeless lady that stops him and protects him from the police and all this and that, and he feels an openness towards her. See, that was one of those sober moments that, you know, like when people are addicted to drugs, when a person is addicted to drugs and they're going through, you know, one of their highs, right, ain't no sense in talking to them. You're not going to get through to them. They're not going to hear what it is that you're trying to say, even though what you're saying is right. But when you catch them in one of those sober moments, they'll hear everything you're saying. Don't mean they're going to stop, but they'll hear it. And see, that happens for people that are not addicted to drugs, but addicted to pain, inner pain. See, he was in one of those sober moments where the fear of the situation that he was in outweighed the pain that he was experiencing. In that moment, he wasn't thinking about his mother and father anymore. First time in a lot of years that he was focused on something else. Even though it was reckless, it made him forget for a minute. And the person that was responsible for him finding that momentary lapse in memory that eased him at the same time but made him afraid was the lady at the homeless encampment. And he appreciated that, even though he didn't realize what was happening. So she told him after a week of being there, and he had to hide out in there, only coming out when he needed to use the restroom or anything like that, right? She told him, look, we can't stay here. They're going to continue to be looking for you. Now, the guy that he beat turned out to be okay, you feel me? But that didn't mean that they were not going to still be looking for him. They wanted to know what was going on. So they moved to another location on another side of town in the city, and he would go out with her during the day, you know, panhandling and doing these types of things, and he would sell him a little drugs here and there, whatever. And this is his new mom. This is his new mom. And he became very protective of her. Very protective. Wouldn't let anybody do anything to her. He meant that. Because he felt as though if he protected her the way he couldn't protect his mom, couldn't protect his dad, then she would always be there. She understood him. She understood him. So one day, she asked him, how did he end up in the situation that he's in, sleeping in a homeless camp? And he started to tell her what happened to him about his mom and about his dad and about his grandmom and all this and that. And all she did was listen. She didn't say anything. And that's what he wanted, somebody to listen. But the therapist, wait a minute, he was there to listen, right? But he didn't know what to say at that time. He needed some more time. And now, all these years later, he was opening up. He was ready to talk. But see, the benefit of the doubt, as far as the empathy and the concern that people had for him in the neighborhood, his grandparents and all the people that knew about his situation, that was gone. That was gone. See, now they see him as somebody else. They see him as somebody else that's a threat. They see him as somebody that can't be trusted. They don't see him as somebody that's acting out from the pain that he experienced. See, they forgot about the journey that brought him to that point. No, they don't want to rap about that. No matter what it is that you're going through, you ain't got the right to be going out robbing nobody and beating up on people and all this and that. Right? We're not going to put up with that. We're not going to put up with that. They got to do something with you. You need to go to jail. But what about the concern that you had for him before? What about the pain he felt when he lost his mama? Don't matter. Don't matter. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. He's crossed the line. He made them afraid of him. And now that they were afraid of him, any pain that he endured didn't matter no more. That didn't matter. The pain that he went through, finding his father dying and watching him die, no sympathy. Being in the car with his mom and his mom killed on impact, he waking up in the hospital being told by his dad that his mom is dead, no understanding. That's over. He had lost that. He had lost that. And now he was being hunted. He had been hunted because, see, now he was out there selling weed sacks, right, to other homeless people, but he sold to a couple of undercovers. And his description matched the description of somebody that they had been looking for. So now they're looking for him. They're asking these people, who is this guy? So now him and his newfound mom, they're moving around. They're not staying in one place too long so that they can be caught. They're not doing that. They're skipping around here and there and everywhere. So he's being hunted. Always remember this. It's not always the police that are going to be hunting. You got people out there that are in bad situations. The way they survive is they prey on other people in bad situations. And that's what happened to him. See, there's a few other people in this homeless camp that he was in and they were moving around. They're watching the moves. They see they got a little bit more than everybody else. How are they getting it? So they started watching. And they saw Skip out here hustling and getting money. So they thinking, okay, they in this together. They getting money together. So one day when Skip was gone out, they move in on his newfound mom, right? The homeless lady. And they beat her. They beat her. Telling her, where's the money? They want the money. Give up the money. She didn't have any money to give them. She gave them whatever she had. And they beat her, and they beat her, and they beat her. And when Skip came back to their home, he found her unconscious. And he flew in a rage. He flew in a rage. And he was not going to accept losing her. He couldn't. The pain was too much. So he found these dudes waiting for him when he came out of the little tent that they were in. And he flew into a rage. He flew into a rage. And if you want to know how this story continues to unravel, you're going to have to tune into the next episode, right? Because it gets better. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.